Hi, everyone. My name is Dan Corcoran, and I'm going to be tackling the issue of transitions to remote learning. Over the past couple months, teachers have been forced to transition to remote learning from a physical classroom, and there are many issues that have come up within the schools and parents and students themselves. But the main issue that I'm going to be looking at is should teachers be required to go through annual professional development sessions on tips and tools for remote learning? So, should educators and administrators set aside time of their professional development days throughout the year to be able to tackle different issues surrounding remote learning so that teachers feel more comfortable if they were ever to go into another remote learning style classroom from a physical classroom. Starting with technology and education, going from the 1980s to today. In the 1980s, technology was more so used as a peripheral tool, as students used it a little bit for learning, but not as much. It was kind of just there, but kind of more so looking at the processing and beginning of the internet. The World Wide Web came in the 90s, where technology began to supplement a lot of things. Blackboard was invented throughout that time, so some LMS systems throughout education kind of were starting up in the 90s, and calculators became more of a thing as well. In the 2000s, technology supplemented instruction throughout the early 2000s, where students, were beginning to use different social media platforms to communicate with one another, and teachers were building more lessons online as well. But then, really, today, technology has really become an integrated tool where teachers use it almost every single day in every single class, and students, it's a part of education right now. And one of the main ways that teachers are using it is really to focus on 21st century skills and college readiness throughout these times. And I really believe that as we transition to remote learning, that the more that teachers kind of understood the different 21st century skills that students can use, and using different devices like a computer, laptop, phone, and tablet, and seeing the different access that students have to data and their technologies and learning management systems, and really focus on these 21st century skills of time management, self-motivation, and connecting through the internet, that the teachers that really understood how to do that were the most successful in engaging their students in their remote learning lessons. Getting students ready for college. There's a bunch of different online courses right now for college. So if teachers were able to kind of work that into their system as well, I feel like that was something that has been very beneficial for many teachers as I've gone through and done some research. Remote instruction versus online learning. I feel like a lot of people believe that they're the same thing. They're actually not. Online learning is a classroom that's set up for online, but remote instruction is a class that's, you're moving content designed for face-to-face instruction online for limited or one-time only course instruction. So it's when teachers are being forced to go from a physical classroom to an online set in at a specific time, and kind of being able to move that content from one to another. And there's many different things that teachers need to learn in order to do that. And that's planning and structuring their classrooms online, teaching with videos, looking at different practice problems and how they can go through and quiz their students through different assessments, being able to communicate in a bunch of different ways. So whether that's just going through and working through different online tools like Google Hangouts or Zoom, or many different video ways there. Or it could be through social media or your LMS systems as well. And then facilitating remote learning. How are teachers going to be able to control their students and being able to understand the different issues that they may have as they go through? So the COVID-19 global pandemic, really raised different challenges for educators. It gave teachers days to prepare for months or years of work that they would have to go through. Graduate programs prepare students for this, but teachers were only given a couple days to do it. So I think of students that are going through an entire couple of years of graduate learning for creating these online systems. Many teachers were only given a couple days to switch over to transition to remote learning. And many teachers who haven't gone through certain programs, really weren't prepared to do something like switching over or transitioning to remote learning. 99% of the 55.6 million students are home from school and at the end of this year, and teachers had to be able to prepare them to be able to move on to their next their next calendar year of school. And so it's just a big challenge for teachers and education systems as a whole, and being able to figure out what they're going to do in such a limited amount of time. So right now I have an example of a teacher displaying her concerns and challenges during this recent transition to remote learning. She is a teacher in New York City, and here is the video.
School, been teaching in university for 20 years. With topics including as we're talking about the virus spreading in Europe, students stop preparing in school. I had a tuition on it. And he said, prepare them back. So I had to throw out those days' plans and just quickly hobble something there. And that was a day. You're tense over like, you got to be ready. Learning's not going to stop. We got to keep up with it. And I typed up a list. I was like, these are what you need to bring home. I would say one of the most difficult things in all of this is the uncertainty. Teachers plan. They plan in advance. They are planning now for next year. Right? So to not know what the plan is makes it very difficult for teachers to look forward and to next week, not knowing is next week the last week. Should be right now. However, due to some technical difficulties, my daughter has taken over my desk. The stressors have been the technology, and then how to use it in a way that is helpful and beneficial, a way that's safe. There's instances where it's not been safe online, and that really stresses teachers out. Our school is pre-K through grade 8, so we have the range of teachers, right? And teachers of those little guys, they don't use technology. They're not having their kids type anything, and so then what is the expectation? For me, it was a 24-hour job. I was getting emails online from students, from parents, and I couldn't separate. It does seem like we stepped into a rhythm, and I'm not getting emails at 10 o'clock at night anymore. I am able to walk away. I would guess that if this really does continue in June, what is homeschooling? What is it to teach your child at home? We might get a really nice idea about that.
And so she ends up going on even more, saying that even though that it's been hard for her, and she has many concerns and challenges throughout this, that as time has gone on and she's learned more about the system and how she can go through and get in touch with her students, that it really has given her a different opportunity to become a different teacher, but it's almost like taking the rest of the year in order to figure that out. So are there different ways that they could have been prepared a little bit more, where she has felt more comfortable moving to an online platform, and getting into a specific rhythm where students began to know and understand what may work best for them, and how teachers can know this with how can they be able to do this with only days to prepare for it. So that's how it kind of has, as she goes on and does that, where 19% of high school students responding, for example, said video chats would make them feel more concerned during remote learning, more connected during remote learning, but only 2% could give examples of how their teachers have done this well. So there's many different, ways of differentiation during remote learning. So there's many different programs, websites, systems that are available for teachers and students, which most teachers may not, be aware of. And knowing that it comes back to teachers not having enough time to be as effective as they may wish they could have been, And teachers today are learning, as they go through their lessons, and they're continuing to figure out certain things as they go through these specific lessons. And so there might not have been enough time for these teachers because they're only given a specific amount of days, but could they have been prepared a little bit more? And especially once we kind of move on and towards the future where if this happens again, how are we going to be able to tackle it knowing that we have had this type of experience already? So there's specific issues that they go through and that students have faced. They say things like, online training is boring. There's technological difficulties. A lot of parents are having and saying that students can't practice certain things and students need specific interaction. And I forgot this, I forgot that. Well, there's specific different answers that can be solved with this with specific, professional development skills. Online training is boring. Well, maybe you can learn different ways to create interactive, fun, and exciting classroom online, and be able to build different, LMS systems that can really interact students with one another. If students are saying that they can't practice or parents are having trouble with their students practicing certain things, well, you can learn to incorporate games and simulators and also help provide feedback to students in different ways. If students are having technological difficulties, you can keep it really simple for them and you can teach them in different ways where they can learn, and you can learn to create multi-device lessons, so that students are able to maybe do certain things on their phone as well as online or on a tablet or in many different ways that they're able to do it. If students say that they forgot certain things, well, teachers can learn how to send a variety of reminders and set time limits. If students need more interaction with what they're doing, they can go through and learn how to use social media and discussion boards and blogs and forums in the classroom. So there's a bunch of different ways that teachers can learn these different things, but we were really, teachers were really only given a couple days to go through and uh, be able to transition to this remote learning. So, how are we able to be able to effectively communicate with teachers how they're supposed to create this classroom where they're really just learning as they're going? There are all these different LMS systems and other technologies that students are able to use. You can look at different ways that you can use it, like discussion boards and creating assignments and online portfolios using different websites like Weebly and Wix, where students can really kind of create their own folder online. There's different assessment tools and technologies like quizzes, Quizlet, Google Forms, and sharing through Google Drive. But all these different things are really hard to just kind of learn in a day or two. So having different professional development sessions where teachers are able to learn how to use these specific technology skills and systems really does help them out and could prepare them for specific instances where they need to transition to remote learning. There are many different real world applications as well to remote learning where teachers can kind of be um, where they can learn different ways to be able to have students connect with real world applications, where students are able to learn specific technology. So there's many things. Many students probably haven't used Google Hangouts or Zoom or different ways to access one another, different discussion boards online before, but they're really being thrown out into the real world and saying, hey, go through and learn these different technology skills. And many students are starting to tackle them really quick. And being able to do that is something that has been awesome to see. And knowing that um, students are able to kind of almost teach some teachers how to use some technology has been a good way of constant communication with one another. There are deadlines um, that can be related to real world applications as well, where students kind of had to give themselves specific deadlines, or they're given specific deadlines and they have to have that specific self motivation where they need to know that they need to get something done in a certain amount of time where it works on their time management skills. Self discipline is another one where motivation comes back as well, where students are able to discipline themselves and be able to complete certain things on time and motivate themselves to get some work done or figure, rather than maybe being satisfied with a B or a C, being able to self-discipline themselves and moving up to an A. And then communicating online, kind of similar to number one, learning technology. I feel like many students are going to be going into college now with some skills in communicating with one another online and communicating across the world with one another, very similar to what's going on in many businesses now across the world. A lot of businesses with the COVID-19 were moved to home, and they were communicating with one another through these same platforms that our students were communicating with one another through their education. So being able to have those specific skills in real world applications, I feel, is something that can really help them out as well. Another thing that I feel that is really important is knowing that there are many different students that are really thriving right now throughout these times. There are students that are able to self-pace one another. I feel like they're getting much needed sleep. There's a lot of students come into school really tired. Well, now they can sleep an extra hour or two as they're getting ready for their classes, and I feel like it's helped out a lot of those students who may be a hyperactive student or a student with an ADHD. And they have those different challenges, but it gives them that more one-to-one communication, and there's not as many social distractions as they're in school. So there are many students that are thriving at home, and being able to look at that and know how that we can differentiate different lessons throughout remote learning is something that teachers really need to know how to do, because it really can connect with many different types of students in a variety of ways. So being able to get this right for the next time that remote learning occurs, there are four kind of main things that teachers need to know. Is that we need to focus on access and equity. I feel like also the faculty just really needs to be supported by the administration, moving the quad online or the community online as well. So being able to access the community, not just the students, so parents, stakeholders, everyone else, just anyone that's in the family of a specific school is really needs to be communicated with as well, and kind of creating that community where where you're activating stakeholders within it. So bringing back alumni and being able to connect with them and having different lessons where you're able to work with one another, and creating that specific school community is huge in self-motivation for students, and kind of being able to let them see that what they're doing is really being broadcasted out there for many.
It can feel like a big change, but online teaching is still teaching. Your virtual classroom will need to be managed, and you will still need to teach responsibly, differentiate your instruction. Yes, there will be some adaptations. Your elements are core. Here are 6 seasoned veterans keeping us engaged in a virtual environment. Making their own digital things or slide decks. The laser focus is simple. Research says that being a natural, authentic self is another key. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, and let your personality shine through. Navigating virtual spaces can be, and you don't want to be sure to have one central hub for all the latest updates. Create other spaces like chat rooms and lounges for group discussions or side. Share clear expectations for participation, protections, and ask students to do this together to ensure every voice is heard. You may not all be in the same room, but students should feel a community. So make time for small group work and relationship building activities. That keeps the humans behind the texts or video screens connected. Give students some space to learn independently builds critical skills. Support. Set online office hours so your students know when they can reach you. You should also and offer guidance and encouragement regularly. Research shows students retain more knowledge when they've actively engaged with materials. Keep learners becoming passive observers by finding ways to build impulse, break for brainstorms, or drop guided questions into the instruction.
So I think that this just kind of goes to show that there are many different ways that and different things that come out of what this is being one of the first times that we've had to transition to remote learning, and being able to keep students engaged like in many of these different tips and ways really needs to be taught to specific, and to all teachers, not just specific teachers, and kind of knowing as to what they can do in the future if this were to happen again. And this needs to be done in specific amounts of time where teachers are going out there and they who really love what they're doing, but giving them the time to prepare and be ready for a situation like this. This is I felt like this is a great quote, that there are great resources out there, but and people with huge hearts are very committed and they're working very, very hard. There's all the teachers are putting in all the time and effort that they can, and they are 24-hour days for teachers who are communicating with their students in a variety of ways, whether it be just through email or connecting on video. But people that really want to learn and to connect with their students in many ways. And I feel like professional development opportunities are different ways where teachers can really learn and kind of enhance their style of education. So my solution to this is, in order to reach all different types of learners and to keep up with technological advances, teachers should attend annual professional development sessions to prepare them for remote instruction.